Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to the course, Environmental Impact Assessments. And in today's session, we are going to cover environmental management plans. So, we have been seeing EIA methods, and in many cases, we have also seen mitigation approach as well, domain-wise. So, today we are going to look at the environmental management plans. And if you look at what's the purpose of environmental management plan is to mitigate the impact of the project. So we have seen how do we assess various impacts, and when the impacts are there, and then we looked at the significance of the impact, and if the impact is significant or it can be mitigated, then really what kind of mitigation measures we take, and then that mitigation measure is covered in the environmental plan. So usually the mitigation, if we see, we have been seeing the process. Mitigation is done through two approaches. One is through EIA before the project comes up. So we try to reduce the impact as much as possible through our process, through our identification of things. And the other is through environmental management plan. So when the project comes up, so when the project starts running, then we, during the operational construction and all the phases of the project, we ensure that we adhere to all the environmental commitments we have made and all the mitigation measures we have committed to adopt for all the kind of impacts which might happen in the project. So we see that literature suggests that the practice of EMP, environmental management plans, has evolved through like bottom-up approach. So it really didn't come from the legislation or top-down approach, but it came from the practitioners, where practitioners started adopting and taking different mitigation approach and started developing related documents for that. So EMP has been developed through practices where practitioners like adopted wide range of practice. So you see that since it's coming from bottom-up approach, there's wide range of practices, different kind of plans, and even you will see there are different terminologies also used in this domain. So you would also see that there's also difference in scope of the kind of management plan. So even that varies how much they would cover. You will see that some of the management plan covers like all the aspects of the project, and it also takes care of all the stages of the project. And then management plan can also be just one stage. You might decide to take only one stage in the documents, or or a specific domain itself. So it can the way it is prepared for purpose it is prepared, the scope of the management plan can really vary. And in that also you can see that EMP can also be at the strategic or institutional level, or it can be at the project level also. So we see that EIA is mostly at the project level, but EMP can be at the strategic level or the institutional level also. So you can take mitigation measures at the higher level, at the strategic level, policy level, and institutional level, as well as at the project level, where the exact local impact, project-related impact are known. So we're going to look into the details of this EMP today with examples. So our coverage will include that. We'll look into the definitions and concepts, and then we'll look into key legislation, policy, and related guidelines. Then we'll look at the methodology, the kind outline it has, and then how EMPs are structured. And then we'll look at what kind of challenges are there, and then we'll also look at some of the example of EMP from Arunachal Pradesh. So we'll look at that. So accordingly, the expected learning outcome is that after completion of this particular session, you should be able to define and discuss concepts. You should be able to identify key legislations, policy and guidance, and you should be able to review like in what's really happening in terms of EMP, what kind of legislation, policy and guidelines are there. Further, you should be able to determine the layout of what kind of approach you have to adopt, and then what structure you would undertake for preparing EMP, and then you would be able to discuss the challenges involved, and then with the help of case study you can really explain EMP, how it is undertaken. So that's the expected learning outcomes. So we're looking at the definitions and concepts. EMP, if you look at EMP, it's the outcome of the EIA process. So when you are doing the entire EIA process, as it's the part of the output of EIA process, because you are trying to identify what are the different impacts which are happening because of your activities, and then which impacts you are able to. They are not significant, but there are certain impact significance which can be handled with the mitigation measures. So what all measures you will take, so it becomes very much part of EIA process. So the EMP also summarizes mitigation, compensation, what kind of compensation would be given, how it will be monitored, and what kind of improvements are happening in the environment are also measured here. And this is EMP is a document like EIA report we have been talking about. So EMP is also in a document. It can be a document part of EIA, or it can be an independent document. This document indicates the actions needed to manage environmental and social effects which are linked with the construction, operation and decommissioning of a project. So it also importantly includes the time schedule for each activity, like what kind of activities you're going to undertake, when you will undertake, plus it also gives you the responsibility matrix, like for certain activity, who will be responsible to undertake that activity. So environmental management plan, as per the World Bank operational manual, we see it says that it's an instrument that provides you the details of the measures to be undertaken during the implementation and operation of a project to eliminate or offset adverse environmental impact, or to reduce them to acceptable levels. So it gives you the details of all the measures which you're going to implement during the project. And then part B, we see that it includes the actions needed to implement these measures. The EMP is said to be integral part of category A. So if you remember, category A and B, so here are also the major projects which will be dealt. So for that, the EMP has to be integral part of environmental assessment report. Irrespective of other instruments used, you have to make EMP part of the EIA. And EIA for category B project may also result in an EMP. So for category B also you might need EMP. So this is what we see here. So that was about the definitions and concepts related. So if we further look out at the certain historical context of this, we see that EMP, as I also mentioned before, it has been a practice-led initiative, and World Bank and the Environmental Agency of Europe, they introduced environmental mitigation plans into the environmental assessments operating directives. So it all happened in 1991. And you see that the concept evolved within World Bank documentation, and then it came into practice. And here it was referred as environmental mitigation or management plans, and that is how we know about environmental management plans, EMP. And they also came up with guidance on what should be covered in an EMP. So if you look at the broader aim of an EMP, the broader aim of EMP is to provide an essential link. So you see how it connects with the EIA. So you see that it is an essential link between the impacts predicted and mitigation measures specified within EIA report. So this is the EMP. This document is the link which allows you to connect the impact and the mitigation, and it allows you to take care of implementation and operation of various activities. So you would also find term environmental and social management plan. So you would also see ESMP, where it would not just include the environmental aspect but also the what kind of management plan will be prepared for the social aspect as well. So that term also you would find. And these both EIA, or you call it ESMP, they are seen as a element of bridging the gap between EIA and the real world implementation of the project. So whatever you're doing, process on the table you're doing, but it helps you to really implement on the ground through the project, and then take care of all the environmental aspect. So within this EMP, you also try to incorporate the social dimension. Like I said, that it's also called as ESMP, Environmental and Social Management Plan. So social impact assessment is like we have already seen. We have looked into the legislative aspect, we have looked into the methods aspect for social impact assessment. So that we have seen. But when we look at the social management plans, so that's like the idea is very recent, but it's evolving and it's being reinforced a lot. So you see that now social management plans are becoming stronger and they have been reinforced a lot, even though they are a recent development. So now looking at certain key legislation, policy and guidelines which deal with the EMP, we see that the key players in this domain are again IFC, World Bank institution here, and all the investment banks. So you might not really find very strong legislative requirements in countries, but also because of these institutions coming in, it's in practice it's translated. So one key reason is that. Then you also see that countries like you have Hong Kong, which has environmental monitoring and auditing component, which makes provision for EMP. Then you also see in South Africa, National Environmental Management Act, and then also in Netherlands, the Environmental Management Act of 1994. All of these make provision for EMP. So you also see in Canada, Canadian Environmental Act 2012 has also made provision for EMP. Likewise, you can see in UK also the EIA directive, EU EIA directive also has include mandatory monitoring for significant adverse effect in their specified articles. So in India, if you look at India, so if we look at EIA notification 2006, you can see that it identifies and it says that within its checklist, environmental impact, environmental management plan and monitoring program has to come, and it defines, if you look at number 10 here, point 10 here, it defines environment management plan. Environment management plan would consist of all mitigation measures for each item-wise activity to be undertaken during the construction, operation, and the entire life cycle to minimize adverse environmental impacts as a result of activities of the project. It would also delineate the environmental monitoring plan for compliance of various environmental regulations. It will state the steps to be taken in case of emergency such as accidents at site, including fire. So you see that how all mitigation measures for each item-wise activity has to be whatever has to be undertaken in different phases have to be detailed out in the environmental management plan. And then if you'll also look at Appendix 3A, you would see that content of summary environmental impact assessment. You would see that the EIA need to have all these 7 components, which you can see: project description, description for environment, and in the last you can see environment management plan. So it becomes very much part of the EIA report. So you would see that, as I mentioned before also, EMP are listed in operational procedures manual of 4.01 as an instrument used for compliance with the bank's environmental assessment requirements. So within that, so I have given you the link to this. You can look at this, and you can see point number 3 where it describes the environmental management plan, which we saw in the beginning, where we defined environmental management plans. So that also gives you operational manual. So the projects which seek all these international funding have to adhere to this. So in particular, you can review International Finance Corporation Performance Standard 1, 2, and 8, which all highlights the importance of EMP, how to manage the environmental, and also look at all the performance, environmental performance and social performances. So EMP is also interlinked with IFC environmental health and safety guidelines. So you see that how it is interwoven within, if it's why it becomes mandatory almost practically to design EMP and to implement it. So that as well you can see. Then equator principles, we have also seen this before. So equator principle also provide financial industry benchmark for determining ways to assess and manage social and environmental risk and wherever they do the project financing. And then one needs to look at the key principle 4 here, which deals with environmental and social management system and equatorial principle action plan. So you can also see under principle 7 also there's independent review, which also deals with due diligence process. So where you create assessment documentation, where you need to, or when you provide assessment documentation, it involves EIA report, it involves EMP report, and it also involves management system. And further, how you are engaging with the stakeholders in the entire process, that also needs to be documented. So looking at this due diligence process and all these assessment documentation, within that also you see EIA and EMP become an important document. So a lot of institutions give guidance on how to prepare EMP. So you see International Council of Mining and Metals also provide guidelines within their sector. Then you also see design manuals for roads and bridges also provide input on this, as well as you see International Association for Impact Assessment, IA also gives you input guidance on social impact management plan, though they have not developed anything on EMP, but they do give input on social impact management plan. Plus you see Institute for Environmental Management and Assessments, best practice series, so they also give input on environmental management plans. So we can just go through this. We can see the typical content of social impact management plans. So here you can see that the structure of the report which you prepare would have the cover in and then like all the details about the publication statement. Then you would require to have executive summary where you tell what are the key issues and findings, and then you would have expert review statement, the reviewers who would give their statement, a letter report from any expert or peer reviewers to indicate how review was conducted. Then you would be introducing a general introduction to the report, making the purpose of the report very clear. Then you would be giving the project summary, what is about the project that we need to know, and then it would be giving the methodology, like what's the overall design, and then you would also give the legal framework and standards which needs to be given, and then the community profile where the project affected area is, and then what's the scoping report, what did you find out from the scoping, and then what are the key social impacts you're looking into, and then what's the resettlement if it's happening. So the summary of that, and summary of mitigation and management measures, a list of all the measures, mitigation which you'll be doing, and then you'll prepare monitoring plan and also contingency plans. Then you'll also provide the benefit statement, the statement of likely project benefits to the local people, including all proposed social investment actions, local content or local procurement strategies. So this also we had seen when we talked about social impact assessment. And then ongoing community engagement strategy and how you would be addressing all the grievances, and then what kind of arrangements you have for governance, and all the related documents, and what are your key references have to be given here. Now moving on to the other segments, we're going to look at the methodology, how it would be, and then we'll look at the EMP structure. So whenever you undertake EMP, there are certain things which have to be taken care of and have to be ensured in the management plan. So one is that it has to undergo contractual agreements with the involved people, because they have to agree to undertake this. So that there should be contractual agreements, and then whatever mitigation measures have been identified have to be included in the project budget. So the cost of mitigation and implementation all has to be included. For example, if the training is required, if awareness is required, and all kind of auditing, monitoring, wherever the cost is involved, that is taken care of, so that it doesn't fail later because of consideration for those aspects. Then you also need to have competent environmental professionals involvement in this, who can help you with the regular maintenance and auditing of the things. And then you need to have collaboration with the stakeholders. You need to have collaboration both with the team members within from your project where you're dealing with, plus with the external from the stakeholders, from the authorities and so on. Further, you need to have stakeholders engagement, entire process while preparing the EMP, and also while implementing, and also while monitoring. So that stakeholders engagement is needed. And then you need to have a clear-cut distribution of roles and responsibility, what all activities will be undertaken and who will take it. So within this, you need to also identify the key documents and references, because things have to be monitored and there will be people involved taking care of it. So relevant handling and control system has to be worked out, and what legislation to refer to, what standards to refer to, and what kind of permits and licenses the development the project has to be all documented, and what kind of procedure will be adopted for reporting, for monitoring, and at what stage it will be adopted. That all needs to be given. Plus you need to also see if the non-compliance happens, what will be the approach in case of non-compliance. So if non-compliance happens, it has to be taken care in the EMP as well as in the contractual agreement. Also, what if the person doesn't do, then what kind of consequences will be there. Now looking at the challenges, involved challenges, there are a number of challenges when using EMP. So one, you will see that it has to be put onto practice. So and you will also see that all the time the standards, policies might be changing in the life period of the project. So there's still need for environmental management responsiveness, which can really adapt to the changing environment. So something which you're predicting for future, but things might keep on changing, so that your EMP also needs to be adjusted, should be adaptable accordingly. And then you also need to have system to manage environmental impacts, and you also need system to carefully monitor and take care of all the requirements and periodic evaluations, and what kind of performance, environmental performances are going on, how you will undertake measures and all. So all these are very complex and intricate. So now looking at the example of EMP. So we'll look at the example of Damwe Lower hydroelectrical project, which is from Arunachal Pradesh. So I'll be sharing this document with you in the forum. So we're going to look at the environmental management plan for 1750 megawatt Demi Lower hydroelectrical project from Arunachal Pradesh. So this is located in Brahmakund Bridge on National Highway 52. You can look at the maps here in Lohit district of Arunachal Pradesh, and you can also see the layout map of Damwe Lower hydroelectric project. And if you think about the northeastern area, Arunachal Pradesh, so it's rich in like diversity, biodiversity in terms of all the resources which it has. It has dense vegetation, forest, and a lot of water bodies which are there. So think of any kind of construction coming there and what kind of impact it might have, and then how EMP can take care of it. So I have taken snips from the report, and I'll be sharing this report with you. So you just look at the content of it. So you can see that how segment wise they have created all, like for each segment they have specified, introduced it, then they have conservation status and what are the major threats, then they have indicated the biodiversity conservation plan for biodiversity, then they have created wildlife management plan, and then so exactly what actions would be taken, and then biodiversity management committee, like who will be responsible, and then cost estimation, like we said that the cost has to be undertaken within that. So you see how each component is taken care of. You can see catchment area treatment plan here. So it talks about it, it introduces that, what kind of approach they have adopted, and then what kind of estimation of soil loss is happening, and they have used a particular methods, silt yield index method. We have seen already different kinds of methods. Then you can see watershed management, what kind of available techniques are there, and then what is their plan for catchment area treatment, and then what's the cost estimate. So likewise you can see that every chapter is handling different components. So see how intense it is. So you see that you have fisheries development plan, public health delivery system, then you have solid waste management, then you have provision for fuel and energy conservation measures, disposal and rehabilitation of muck, then restoration of construction areas and landscaping. Then you see creation of green belt around the reservoir. You can see rehabilitation and resettlement plan. Then they also have disaster management plan, reservoir rim treatment plan, and then you can see construction methodology and equipment planning, how they are going to plan that, environmental monitoring program, how they are going to monitor that, and all the cost estimates involved there. So you see how each segment has been dealt here. And now just there's so many components, but I'll just quickly run through biodiversity conservation and wildlife management plan. So you see how they have summarized different types of plans, what different groups they are, number of species which were recorded during the survey. So you have seen all those scoping, baseline study and methods which were involved. So here you can see what they studied and how they have presented the summary table. And then they are also telling about the conservation status, which are the endangered species, which are the rare species. So that all is taken care of. You have learnt about these before. So you see how they are indicating it here. Then what's the conservation status of faunal species in the study area, influence area and the catchment area, you can see here. So they are showing all that common name, scientific name and all the areas here, and which, as per which list, IUCN and all that, it is applicable here. And then they have also done priority setting of biodiversity, like what's the priority setting, is it global, national, hotspots, EBAER, and then all that categories which you can see here at the national level. So you also see that what kind of activities and development work will be undertaken within this, and then like they are taking care within that activity, establishment of gardens for voucher specimen. Then they have calculated the cost estimate for that. Then they are working out the butterfly park, and then they have worked out the cost for that, how they're going to do it. Then they are preparation of people's biodiversity register, so that they are taking as a mitigation measure. And then identification of invasive species and recovery of susceptible species. So you have also studied about invasive species, susceptible species. So they are creating that identification. And then a forest protection plan, and then what kind of cost will be involved. So for each and everything, they are identifying it. Safeguard during construction phase. So now you can see as per the phase also they are doing. And what kind of research and development activities they will undertake. Then they are looking at the wildlife management plan. Again, you can see like all the activities, have not put all of them here. Patrolling and surveillance, identification of decimating factors, anti-poaching and hunting, study of wildlife population and so on. And then the cost involved in that. Likewise, you can see Biodiversity Management Committee, who will follow the guidelines of National Biodiversity Authority, and they would implement, monitor and keep on evaluating it. So we talked about a responsibility matrix. So this is how they are identifying who will be responsible for what and what's the cost involved. So within this, they have also given the extensive list of pertinent details for conservation of rare, threatened and vulnerable flora and fauna in this particular area. So likewise, you can see the catchment area treatment plan. Just skimming through this, lot of areas which they have gone through, but we can just quickly skim through this, not all of it. So you can see the catchment area treatment plan here. Various land use and land cover classification you can see here, like dense forest, river, alpine scrub and so on, you can see. Then land use classification for free draining catchments, then area falling under different slope categories, what digital terrain model they have developed. Then erosion intensity rates of the catchment area they have taken, see how they are classifying it to understand the significance. Very high, high, medium, low, very low, total. Then you can see how sub-watershed wise also they are proposing the treatment measurements. So you can see the watershed numbers here, what kind of treatment they are doing, afforestation, like they're going to do 1600 trees per hectare, or they're going to do 800 trees per hectare, or they're going to do the contour bunding in what area, and then pasture development and how much area they would be doing. So see kind of treatment measures they are taking. So you can see the range of mitigation measures also which are here. And you can see the cost estimation of a catchment area treatment here. You can see how they have calculated the problem with silt yield index. And then you can see all the proposed treatment measures. You can see afforestation. The green color is showing all the afforestation. Red is showing afforestation. for how much area, like 1600, 800, and then the contour bunding where they were going to develop pasture developments, and then how they're going to create sub watersheds. So you can see all those here. And then they have created a treatment index map here based on their findings. So you see how intensive and detailed they prepare. And then now you can see here year-wise target, physical and financial for the catchment area here. So you can see here 1 year, 2 year, 3, 4, 5, and then how much total financial, and then for biological measure, for engineering measure, and so on. So that they have covered. So that was what we saw in environmental management plan. So winding up for today's class, we saw the involved definitions and concepts about environmental management plan. We also saw environmental and social management plan, ESMPs. So and then we saw the key legislation, policy and guidelines across the globe, as well as what's in our country. And then we saw the involved methodology and what's the structure of it, what kind of challenges are still there. And then we looked at one of the examples just to understand how the EMP looks like. So that was all for today. So this was our key reference. We have been referring to the book of Thirlwell and Wood, and then we have also taken certain cases here for reference purpose, and then you can see the suggested watch and read. There are more examples which you can refer to and have better understanding of the issues here. So winding up, please feel free to ask questions. Let us know about any concerns you have. Do share your opinions, experiences, and suggestions. Looking forward to interacting and co-learning with you while exploring AI. Thank you.